Hello and welcome to the Appleby Hour. I am Appleby, and today I'd like to talk to you about metamodernism. What is metamodernism? Well, before we get into what metamodernism is, we have to kind of discuss the other modernisms. It starts out, these are historical eras, ways to divide up humanity, and we could add things even earlier, but we'll start with pre-modernism. Now, pre-modernism is essentially before the modern, right? You get that. But what does that actually mean? Well, it basically means before the Industrial Revolution, before our modern mode of existence, back when most people were farmers and supported themselves and, maybe had some surplus to sell off if they were lucky. Uh, Now, the Industrial Revolution comes along. We start these big manufacturing processes, and suddenly the cities are much larger. Cities expand to uh, with our economies, right? And we create this new sort of mode of existence. And obviously, our society changed greatly. There was this in modernism. When you look at art, there's a lot of focus in on functionality, on a form meeting function. That's kind of the motto of the modernist art movement. So think of like your desks at school. Those are modern. um, it's humanity has sort of a very clear kind of focus. We're looking forward, and we're working. Um, Now, after modernism came postmodernism. you know, Pre and postmodernism. I know they're very creative names, but anyway, postmodernism is sort of it looks at modernism. It looks at the certainty that we had, and in some ways also broke down the leftovers from the pre-modern period, the cultural remnants. And that's kind of the what postmodernism does. It breaks down. It's caustic, acidic. It rips and tears and analyzes, dissects and slices uh, everything. You can deconstruct and then deconstruct your deconstruction and then deconstruct your deconstruction of the deconstruction. And when you do that, you kind of tear everything up. And people in the wake of postmodernism, people alive today, people like Gen Zers, they they sort of, I don't know, they feel purposeless, without direction. The stuff Jordan Peterson is always whining about. And there's truth in it, certainly. Uh, so that brings us to metamodernism. Now, that was a real quick sort of crash course, very general kind of idea. These are big cultural, philosophical movements. They're essentially the zeitgeist is kind of changing direction between these movements, and I don't think anyone truly controls it. And so that brings me to metamodernism. Before I get into metamodernism, uh, what I want to say is that there are lots of postmodernists who really hate metamodernism. And really makes them lose their shit. And I think that's kind of silly because it sort of implies that you can oppose it, which is really ironic and weird coming from a postmodernist who you know, they 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 would deconstruct that to hell and back if they could afford a mirror. Um, but what metamodernism is, and I think that we have made this turn in culture. It's hard to sort of see where the winds are blowing while you're in the midst of the storm, but I do believe that we have made a change from the post to the meta modern sort of model. And what the meta modernists want to do is they want to, they look at all the pieces strewn about that the postmodernism has cut to ribbons, and they want to salvage something. Now, here's what I'll agree with the postmodernists who oppose the metamodernists. There are some metamodernists who are just anti postmodernists or even anti-modernists, where they just want to return to tradition, go back, regression. And I obviously oppose that. There's another flavor that kind of want to cobble something together from the pieces. I don't like that either. I think the real path forward is to find the commonalities, the underlying trends, there's almost the zeitgeist that remains. It's like, they say we killed God, right? And let's just take that statement literally for a moment. We've stabbed God, and then we kind of did the same with our ghosts. The soul is destroyed, cut into pieces, and it's almost like, okay, what's left? What we've slashed the divine. We've cut up the human spirit. Is there anything left? Is there any kernel left? And I think that there is. But this isn't the video for that. But I think that should be the goal of the metamodernist, and that's certainly how I think of and engage with the concept. We're looking for what is left, what is the overarching structures, the patterns that can still be preserved and played with. It's we've deconstructed the thing, we've dissected it, but now it's time to reach in and grab rip the soul out of it and start working with that. I don't know. This is just sort of me venting my thoughts on the topic. But so the takeaway should be, the crash course on the evolution of these different periods of human culture, and that if there is indeed a change to some new mode, that the cultural tides are bigger than any one of us, and that it cannot be opposed. That's just silly. And that I do believe that has happened, and I think that it's time to explore our personal attitudes towards how exactly we're going to interface with this new paradigm. And I think metamodernism is the movement that best fits. There are others going on, but I really don't think that they're serious. Or not that they're serious, because again, that implies that you kind of create these movements, when I think it is just sort of the zeitgeist shifting. But yeah, that's what I have to say on the matter. I'd love to hear what you have to think about it. So go ahead, leave your comments, like, share, you get it. Yeah, see you in the next one.